All right, gang, we're going to take a moment and examine in Wireshark some 802.11 frames, get a feel for what's really going on, and make sure we understand some of the aspects of 802.11 communication. So notice in this section over here that we've got a quick summarization of some of the information of each of the different frames going back and forth between a couple of devices here. And what I'd like for you to do is, looking at this list, see if you can track down which of these is the message regularly sent by the access point to announce its presence so that others can see the SSID that's available on the network. Pause, and then we'll talk about it together. All right, from the list that we see right here, the beacon frame, we see it repeated over and over again. Remember, beacons are used to announce that it's there, and we can see the SSID that it is announcing. Let's crack open this beacon frame. We'll select it and see its contents down here in the lower section. And open up the radio tap header. That's, again, some low-level information. And we'll even expand out the flag section a little bit. Okay, a couple of quick questions. What channel are we using? What data rate are we using? What does our signal strength look like right now? And we can find all this information from what you're seeing right here. Pause, and then we'll talk about it together. All right, so in terms of our data rate, we see that right here. It's actually already selected. That's 1 megabit per second. So notice it uses the slowest speed possible in order to announce itself, because that's the lowest common denominator. It's right here on channel frequency 2412. That's channel 1, as we see right there, BG1. And in terms of signal strength, remember, that's going to be the SSI signal measured specifically in decibels. That's our tool for measuring signal strength, right? So 39 dB is our current strength. Okay, let's take a look at another frame here. Of the list of frames that we see, which of these frames would be used in order to communicate with an access point and ask to initially connect to it and basically say, I'm a device and I'd like to start using you as an access point? Pause, and then we'll talk about it together. Okay, so from the list here, we can see the probe request. And remember, we've got requests, and then we will have responses. And of course, you can see that we're having communication coming to and from. So if I'm looking for an access point, well, then that would be an access point here with a probe request broadcasting out to communicate with an access point that has this particular SSID. Let's expand that frame, take a look at its contents down here. All right, so from what we can see right here, what flavor of 802.11 are we currently using? Pause, and then we'll discuss it together. From what we can see right here, it looks like we're using 802.11b. Okay, makes sense, right? We knew we were in the 2.4 gigahertz range. We knew that we were transmitting at 1 megabit per second. So far that seems to make sense. Let's go ahead and expand this out again and take a look at actually this section here. Let's reconsider here. As we look, as we are communicating, remember, this is the message being sent out from a device to reach an 802.11 environment. Notice we have a list of supported data rates listed out, and we have extended supported data rates that are available. So from those data rates, now, what would you say is the flavor of 802.11 that we're using? Okay, pause, and then we'll discuss it together. All right, so what we can see here is a set of supported rates that go all the way up to 54 megabits per second, not just 11. If it only went here, I'd say it was B, but since it goes all the way up here, but as we know is in the 2.4 gigahertz range, then must be G. It's not going all the way up to values that would include N, so that's splitting the difference right there. Also, the fact that we see these extended supported data rates, that's a part of the OFDM data rates, so those are optional data rates that are available. And these are the B data rates that are available if we revert back to DSSS. And so we are backwards compatible to B. It's kind of our baseline that we can all understand, but this device is definitely a G device attempting to connect to an access point. All right, gang, let's take another look here at our list of frames. And actually, I'm going to jump over to a different file here. And let's see if we can track this one down. All right, so we've got a file here, and I want you to see I'm selecting some data that is a part of the communication process that we established earlier. And from there, let's see, if we expand this out right here under the 802.11 radio information, my question is, again, originally it looked like we were using B. Can you verify that we are using 802.11g, and what is the data rate that we're actually using right now? Pause, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so you can see it actually now says we're using 802.11g. We were able to negotiate to support G after B was ruled out. And notice we're actually optimized at 54 megabits per second, so we're using the best possible data rates. We must be pretty close to that access point. All right. Now, why? I want you to take a look at the list of frames here. You can see we have kind of this ongoing process of sending data. What are these two intermediate frames used for? One coming from the access point, one coming from the device. Pause, and then we'll discuss it. So these two frames that we're seeing are the acknowledgement of the data. So in this case, the Cisco device contacting the Apple device, there's some data, and so then we come back with an acknowledgement. And then that's coming from the Apple device talking to the Cisco device. It's not listed here, but that's how it functions. And then in this case, the Apple device then saying, all right, I'm ready to, again, we're ready for you to now send a new message as you need to. So again, we're ready to send. So then we have the Apple sending data to the device. There's our data. Then the Apple device receives an acknowledgement, and the Cisco device receives, okay, clear to send. So we just kind of wash, rinse, repeat over and over again as we go through this process. If you look at that data that we see down here in the bottom of this data frame, it's very difficult to tell if just looking at it, whether or not that, as it's been converted to hexadecimal, whether or not that's actually data that is still in clear text or not. So is this an encrypted frame or is it not? Let's take a look once again at in this time looking at the data section. And I want you to look here at the various flags. They're in the data section. Oh, jumped packets. There we go. So looking at the various section identifiers here, and see if you can track down anything that would relate to encryption or not. Pause, and then we'll discuss it. All right, so we can see we've got a frame control field dealing with our counter values. We've got our various different MAC addresses. Remember, there can be up to 4 MAC addresses used in that communication to describe the original source, the original destination, and possibly one or more access points that are in between as necessary as transmitters and receivers, as well as source and destination. So those are interesting, but not what we were looking for. What we want is CCMP. Remember, CCMP is a flavor of encryption, and that is used by WPA version 2 and the WPA as part of the 802.11i standardization. So again, we can see, yes, we are set up to encrypt it. The reason why that looks like nonsense is because it is, right? That is confusion created by the encryption, which is a good thing. This has been secured. That could be a name and a password. That's okay. It is, in fact, protected. Great work.